On my Media Prime. This evening we are going to be looking at what is happening out there in Canada. A retreat that is organized, negotiation, a retreat that has received mixed reactions from across the different segments of the Anglophone community, with others celebrating the fact that persons from different backgrounds could come together to discuss and see if they could find a common ground. Meanwhile, others see it as a government-sponsored initiative, bashing it and questioning the credentials of those who are organizing the retreat. We are going to be discussing on what is happening and asking the question whether these different factions, we understand that there are non-state groups out there represented by the Ake of C, as well as the Ayuk led faction of the interim government, represented there by the Deputy Yerima. We also understand that the clergy is represented out there by the moderator of the PCC, as well as the retired Archbishop who is out there. We also have the presence of the civil society, represented by Madame Oma Njomo Esther. We have other persons. We hear that the international community is also represented to some level out there by some organizations. We look at what is happening out there and the possibility for a positive outcome with respect to what is happening in the conflict-stricken southwest and northwest regions. With our panelists who are here in the house already, we are in the company of Akwen Nadieh. She is the youth leader for the militants of the UPC party, and also recently made a spokesperson. We're glad to have you. Good evening.
Good evening to you, Mr. KUM. Good evening to my co-panelists. Good evening to all the televiewers of this prestigious platform. Good evening to all the militants of the UPC scattered around the continental globe. Special greetings to all the Cameroonian diasporas who work day and night to see that Cameroon move forward. Mr. KUM, I have a problem because, you know, the Cameroon government doesn't acknowledge our Cameroonian diaspora, because we cannot talk of an emergent country without our diaspora. We can look at countries that have accepted, you know, some dual nationality, and today they are doing very fine, like Ghana, Ethiopia, and other countries like Cote d'Ivoire. So I believe that the Cameroon government, who is talking about an emergent country in 2033, should be able to allow, you know, create some kind of conducive atmosphere for our diasporas to come back in the country and invest, because most of the problem we are having with our diaspora is that they complain that when they come to Cameroon, they pay. You know, Mr. KUM, most of these diasporas that go out for greener pastures, they obtain another nationality not because they want to, but because they are being forced. You understand? So now the Cameroon government is supposed to create a conducive atmosphere for them to come back and invest and bring out the knowledge they have received, because we cannot move forward with our diaspora being left behind. So I think that the Cameroon government needs to work on that. We recently saw what happened with the election of Fikafoot, with Samuel Eto'o, that was denied the ability to become the president because he has a dual nationality. We also saw what happened with Nadieh Yango, and these are some of the, you know, isolated cases with the problems our diasporas are having. You know, it's a call for concern. We cannot move Cameroon forward without our diaspora being involved. It is a call for concern, and I call the Cameroon government to foresee the conditions so that a dual nationality should be accepted, because these people do not accept another nationality because they do not love Cameroon. No, they love their country, because, Mr. KUM, we can see on daily basis on social media how our diasporas, they love our country, they talk about Cameroon, and most of them are fighting for the betterment of Cameroonians. Someone who goes out, get a nationality, and is cool to have a doctors or perhaps have money to come and invest and open, you know, companies in Cameroon, but because of the conditions, they are unable. And you will believe me that Mr. KUM, a born Cameroonian, maybe who was born in Bafang, who was born in Bafoussam, is not well treated with someone like a Lebanese who come to Cameroon and wants to invest. You know, it's paradoxical to see these issues, and it's very painful. You will see that a stranger, maybe a Chinese man, is well treated in Cameroon more than a born Cameroonian. Why? Just because of the Cameroon government. We have a corrupt government, and a government who doesn't want to see that our diaspora is a force.
It's
a call for concern, Mr. KUM. We need to talk about this thing,
yes,
because we cannot move Cameroon forward without our diaspora. Yes, it's very important.
An edition of the program is going to be dedicated to that topic. I'm sure next week, if you can just remind us in the forum. We also are in the company of Mr. Nj Lucas, civil society activist. We're glad to have you. I will start by asking you whether your first impressions from what is happening out there in Canada.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leo. I appreciate the idea of the retreat in Canada. I think it's worth applauding, because no matter what we do, there is one thing we need to bear in mind. We will still have to sit together to talk and find a way out of this, what I keep calling the senseless war. I call it senseless war because I don't see any reasons for this war. If the British and the French came together, they put up a coalition to fight against the Germans, I want to believe that it was because of the German aggression in Europe, which they were extending to Africa. So I don't see any reason for us Cameroonians to keep killing ourselves. The people who die daily, we celebrate that they have been neutralized. Those who die daily, we call them frogs, and so on. These are all Cameroonians, and we will need this number someday to take the economy forward. So I want to say that the program that took place in Canada, I think, which was for 4 days or so, it's what I'm appreciating. It's a very good idea. As the program unfolds, I think we shall be discussing more on that.
Okay, Tamai Jarvis is also in the studio with us. Good evening, Jarvis, and your impressions on what is unfolding, or what is taking place out there in Canada.
Good evening, Mr. KUM. Good evening to President Biya. Good evening to Maurice Kamto, Nijon Fundi, Aya Paul Abine, and all political stakeholders. Good evening to the peace-loving people of my beloved village, Way Village in Menchum Division, the Northwest region of Cameroon. I'm happy with the chain of events, especially in Canada. In negotiation, there's something that we captioned, that the worst form of dialogue is better than non-dialogue. That's what we say in negotiation, because in the worst form of dialogue, you get to understand how, you get to understand perspective, you get to understand the problem, you get to understand what you can do in the worst form of dialogue. But non-dialogue in itself is worst, because you don't get to understand what needs to be done to arrest the situation. This is what is happening, Mr. Liu. We have Anglophone problem inside Anglophone problem, and Anglophone marginalization inside Anglophone marginalization. I appreciate the effort, but there's something that I saw once in the media was left out. The press people who are at the forefront, I'm sure they should have at least invited one or three people, or one or two, to speak on the, we are at the forefront of this conflict, and we are, we are there in see how it unfolds, and we understand how, the conflict move in and out. We've been reporting on the conflict. We've been having live programs on the conflict. I'm sure that the media in itself, either the president of the associations, journalism associations, or it's someone recognized within the media landscape to be there to understand what is happening and somehow speak from the media perspective, because whether we like it or not, we have journalists who have died as a result of the conflict. We have journalists who have been arrested as a result of the conflict. We have journalists who have been threatened, called black leg, green leg as a result of the conflict. So I'm happy with the fact that the conference is taking place, but I'm not okay with the fact that the media in itself was left out. Only we had civil society, we had politicians, we had NGO, but what of the media? So I'm pleading that subsequently issues like this, since it's a process, dialogue is a process, the media too should not be left out, because we need all hands on deck to see how we can resolve the conflict in the Northwest and Southwest region. And there's something that I want to raise here. We have great division within Anglophones because of greed. We are the problem to our problem. Why do I say so? I say so because we keep insulting everybody but ourselves. We keep calling people black leg bet ourselves. Look at when this conflict started. The government called for an interministerial committee in Bamenda and in Yaoundé. We condemned it. The government created the Bilingualism and Multiculturalism Commission. We condemned it. We call it cosmetic solution. The government, we had the announcement of Christian Kadinatumi to call for an all-Anglophone conference so that we can come together as a voice and speak as one voice and have a way forward to present our grievance. We have two groups of people now from this Anglophone expedition. A group says it will never take place in Boya, even if the head of state visa it. Another group sits somewhere and say this Kazinatumi, Dr. Samuel Munzo, have collected huge sums of money to sabotage the struggle, so they are enablers. Now, keep aside that, we had the IAPOL list. IAPOL came out with a list, a proposed list, say, okay, let these people come and sit together. We condemn, we say IAPOL list is that. Okay, the CDN came, the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation. We said they had collected huge sums of money, they are enablers, they are blackleg. And now this conference in Canada, they are this, they are that. The government created disarmament, demobilization. We said they are this, they are that. Yes, we understand that there may be some inconsistency in their action, but however, we should see how we can appreciate an effort while wanting for more. So, Mr. Leo, you see, it is a total cacophony, and I ask myself, what do we as the people of the Northwest and Southwest want to see to be done so that this conflict can be resolved? Because those who are against peace are some of us, those who pretend and parade that we want peace. If we want peace, we should appreciate all effort and say, yes, we appreciate this effort. However, we can encourage that this modification should be done subsequently, as I've pointed out with the media. So I think that we should look at it from a perspective of the common man who is dying in Gokitunja, in Kwakwa, in Wum, in Nake, Bole, Bafia. These people who are against or who are not in favor of any of these motions, they don't live in Cameroon. And some of them, even who live in Cameroon, they are not in the restive regions. And it's sad to see someone who doesn't live the reality insult an initiative or criticize it outrightly without proposing something that can at least bring the people together. We understand that coming together is not resolving the conflict, but coming together is understanding each other in the conflict and understanding ideas and understanding perspective and how we can move forward. Whether we like it or not, both sides will shift ground. The government has shifted ground by recognizing and acknowledging there's no state armed groups, however, will shift their grounds. They should shift their ground either to whatever they want, but they should not say it is either independent or nothing else. I think we can have a better option. Dr. Nick proposed confederation. Others are proposing federation, 10 state, 8 state, 2 state, whatever state. Let's have a way in which we can reason together and put an end to this.
Okay. We also are in the company of the Secretary General of the Popular Action Party, Fabrice Lena. Good evening and welcome, Fabrice.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening to Jarvis. Good evening to Akwen. Good evening to the viewers of My Media Prime TV. I will start by appreciating Dr. Foregia, Dr. Judith Mwana, and all those who have taken out time to make sure that this retreat in Canada take place. We all know how difficult it is to deal with Cameroonians, how difficult it is to deal with Southern Cameroonians and Africans in this very, very complex moment. It is really difficult to deal with people and to give exactly what they want, especially in a situation where everyone is a self-proclaimed leader of non-recognized organizations, of legitimate or illegitimate organizations. But the point where we are now is the point where everyone claims to be a leader. And it makes it very, very difficult for us to move out of the stalemate, out of this stagnant condition, out of this situation of stagnation where we keep losing people every day, but we don't have a way forward. I believe strongly that a roadmap to peace in Southern Cameroon can begin with the CDN retreat. It can also begin by reviving what the late Cardinal Tumi started, which I believe the CDN retreat have some of its characteristics, that of bringing together people of all categories to come together and see how we could, first of all, discuss the differences among ourselves. It is also important, Mr. Leo, that we tell the people to understand a retreat do not mean whatsoever form of negotiation with the warring camps, but it is an understanding conference amongst Southern Cameroonian groups and principally separatist groups, principally civil society groups, humanitarian groups. It is true. I personally question their inclusiveness this time around, because in the virtual conference of 30th October to November last year, we have about 4,000 participants worldwide during that particular virtual conference. I also participated in last year's virtual conference. But in this year's selection for participants in the Canada retreat, many of the stakeholders were dropped. I believe the organizers best understand the reason for the selection of the people they selected. But the minimum we can do as other stakeholders is to give them the support to go ahead. Meanwhile, we wait the outcome of whatever thing they are going to do from there. Because at this point, if someone is not enforcing any initiative which is geared at ceasefire, which is geared at looking at the path of peace, which is like taking the responsibility of being an ambassador of peace, it means there is a problem with you. It means we have to question your own, whether your own individual interest is more than the collective interest of us seeing that this war ends. So, Mr. Liu, as we do the analysis of the topic in details, I will come again to give you my understanding of what we await from the CDN retreat, my understanding of the issues I will criticize about the retreat, and what I will propose as a way forward for us to collaborate with actors of the retreat and whatever resolution they will come out with for a way forward towards ceasefire, peace, and a better country for us all.
Okay, we have just been joined by Nghateng Donatus, all the way from Boya. He is also a member of the civil society. We're glad to have him. We'll also start by asking him whether what is happening in Canada at last answers to the many calls for the different stakeholders involved in this war to come together to see a way forward.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. I just think that anything that has to do with paving a way to normalcy or getting to peace, I just think that any initiative that has to do with that, I think it's a great initiative. And particularly this Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation, this retreat or this meeting, I think that at last the stakeholders can leave their differences and try to look for the common good towards peace returning to Cameroon as a nation in general.
Yeah, but are you not also worried by the fact that we have very different opinions? Some persons think that it's of no essence.
Like, I'm not one of those people who hold such an opinion. I just think that if you see the main aim, how it's being spelled out, so that they could come together and build trust, sit among each other, forget about their individual aims and look for the collective goal. So I just think that it's something worth it, particularly because any path to peace now is called for.
Okay, it's very called for. How timely is the retreat out there in Canada?
Well, I think the retreat in Canada is pretty in time, given that if you read the faces and the situation on the ground, you will realize that a good number of the people on the ground are kind of decaming some of the camps which they had been before. Now, except they want to tell me that they are this insensitive. The truth is, on the ground, we have guys who have decided to lay down their arms. On the ground, we have guys who have decided to pick up arms. And there is a need for this dialogue to take place. Now, since the purpose for this dialogue is to, first of all, bring together the fractions.
It's a retreat, huh?
Yes, it's a retreat whose aim is to bring together the fractions to understand themselves better, so that when there is a discussion or a dialogue, they should know who and what to say. The truth is, if you were a leader of a country and you plan to have a dialogue with another country, and you find a country in this manner, it will be difficult for you to. Let me take the case of Muna and Foncha, and why Ahijo took advantage of the 1972 constitution. Now remember that Ahijo had to negotiate and brought forward a particular person to lead the Southern Cameroonians simply because they were fighting. There was a time Ahijo had to come right down to Boya to bring them together. He told them that there is no need for you guys to keep fighting, so you can come together. So you can clearly see that once you are scattered, even your enemy, even the person whom you are fighting against, may want to take advantage over you. So I think the dialogue is very important, and it's really timely, because whether we like it or not, we have already seen that the conflict in Cameroon, which most of them preach it, or actually preach the reality that it is the highest conflict that is not being communicated at the level of the international community. It is a conflict which the UN for 5 years, can you imagine that this is a conflict that has taken place for 5 years and the Security Council is saying nothing about it? I keep saying that for those who think that the UN is going to bring solution to the ongoing problems in Cameroon, please, they should not get me wrong and they should not get themselves wrong. It will not be possible. Now, there is a body that will bring your issue on the table and then deliberate to send it to the General Assembly. Once the Security Council does not know your problem, no matter how grievous it is, forget about it. You can kill yourself, for the hell they will not care. So I think it is time for us, the people of the Northwest and Southwest region, most especially for those of us on the ground. Mr. Leo, I run a center where you have the internally displaced people, you have the underprivileged, you have the street children. You need to see them. One man came to me who had run to Nigeria as a refugee, but it was very difficult for him. They had to come back to Cameroon. So for those who think that this dialogue does not really matter, I want to let them know that if you truly have the people at heart, I keep saying this, if you truly have the people at heart, it is time for us to throw away and put away our differences. Once a war becomes unpopular to your own people, you will not have defense from the ground. America decided to withdraw from Vienna. I keep saying this, but many of them will not get it. This war is becoming unpopular on the ground. And no matter what we see on social media, we cannot also deny the fact that there is propaganda. Howbeit, there are areas where the reality is happening. I am coming from Boya. And I want to say that if you look at the situation and the atmosphere, before now, there were times when I go to work, I'll come to my 17, board the car as though I'm going to Nghateng. Then I'll force the driver that I'm alighting in my 16. But today, it is not the case. I could stand in my 16 and I board the car and I go up to Moliko. These are parameters for you to determine how far the people are getting tired with a particular situation. So in order not to discredit yourself, what you need to do is that you have to sit with the people. I've always said that God told the people, come, let us reason together. There is no way you will solve a problem. This is somebody who has all the ability. He is sovereign. He is our creator. Yet he called mankind to reason together, because the moment mankind would want to go out of his own way, it will be difficult for him to get them back. So the dialogue which took place in Canada is very timely. And I want to applaud those who participated in it, especially I think Forentia. Now, the level with which he moderated, the level with which, because if you read the papers and you read everything on the ground, you will realize that he had a lot to do. And when you see people like Barrister Agbobala, who leaves Cameroon, travels to Canada for such a dialogue, you see the moderator, you see the Archbishop Emeritus Cornelius leaving Cameroon, travels to Canada for this dialogue. It is to tell you that these are the people. The leaders we have on the ground, these persons we have on the ground, they are the people who are meeting the people daily. If you want to know how this war is, the bishop emeritus will tell you, the moderator will tell you, the Baptist secretary will tell you, people like Barrister Agbobala, whose organization is equally reaching out to some people, they will tell you, because these are the people they receive. So those who sit and see this discussion to be of no use, I tell you the truth, these are the real enemies of the Anglophones. And it is time for us to identify these real enemies and dump them in the garbage bin, because there is no way we are going to move ahead. I see a good number of them castigating, trying to make the whole thing being a nonsense, to be a nonsense. But I want to say that they have little or nothing to contribute. I will not care whether you live in the diaspora and you have the might in terms of your dollar. But what you need to know is that once the war on the ground is unpopular to the people, your dollars will have no use for them.
Yep,
Yes.
How timely is a retreat? Is it coming late, or we need it at this time? And after here, what should we be expecting?
Well, Mr. KUM, you know, it's better late than never.
Okay.
To me, I think that, you know, this retreat was supposed to be done a long time ago, because we are moving towards the 5th year already. You know, we have had a lot of people who have died. Over 6,000 people have been displaced. 4,000 people already dead. You know, it's a huge loss for Cameroon as a whole. So now the problem about these coalition for dialogue and negotiation is the criteria to which the people that organized it took some people, because you can see that on the other side we have people that are complaining about this thing, and we see that it is not a consensus to me, because I do not know, I did not hear about anything. It's something that was supposed to be made public, because at one point the Cameroon government told the Anglophones in general that we do not know who to talk with, and that was one of the problems the Cameroon government has. Now we are seeing something that is talking about peace, trying to create some kind of common room for all the other parties or the commanditors of this war who are living in the diaspora. To me, it's a positive initiative. But there is a problem, because, there is no consensus. We have other people that are criticizing this. So it's a huge problem. And I think that, guns have never resolved any problem, Mr. KUM. Negotiation is always the best thing to be done. We saw how the U.S. withdrew their troops from Afghanistan because it was a guerrilla warfare. It was a guerrilla war, and you can never win such a war. And it's the same thing that's happening in Cameroon. We have been talking about peace initiative and all that. Today we have something on the table. The problem is, how is this thing, how can it be? Is it consistent? Is it something to trust? Okay, because we see people that say we do not recognize ourselves in that retreat. It was a 4 days retreat. People say I am not recognized there, and others says, okay, I'm into this. We saw that all the bodies were represented. We had the religious body, we had the politicians, the civil and the other non-governmental groups that were represented in this retreat. So to me, I think it's a positive thing, but the only thing is the steps which they took to organize, because not everybody was aware. It was like, to me, it's something that was sacred, and we just saw newspapers flying about. They had a retreat in Toronto and all that. I would have been very happy to participate in this retreat, because I believe that I too am a voice and I have something to contribute. If you want to say you are creating some kind of trust between the Anglophones, you need to involve everybody. So everybody was not represented. So these are one of the huge problems we are going to have. So I think that those that organize it is something very perfect. It is good, because we need peace. Okay. Now, the problem is other people are complaining. How are we going to do to bring these other people to accept with us what we want?
Yeah, because but they are complaining not because they were not contacted. They were invited.
Yeah, because Mr. KUM, they are complaining not because they were not contacted, but because perhaps, Mr. KUM, this thing has become something personal. There are people that say that if it is not done with me, nothing can happen. It has become something. The Anglophone problem started on a good note. Agbogbala went to prison for this same cause. So some people have taken this thing as an economic problem. You understand? And most of them, they are waiting that they should come and negotiate with them before anything can happen. Some fractions of these things. So it is something very difficult for people to just sit down and discuss. So I think that we need to come to a consensus and call all the other bodies, so that together we can look for a common ground. Okay. Because this retreat will not solve the problem, Mr. KUM.
Okay. Tabe Clinton, good evening to you. Emmanuel Ibai, good evening to you. Shufai Tadzenui, good evening to you. Wonja, good evening to you. It's been long. Please calm down out there. Horace Angula, good evening to you. Bakala CFA, and to you, Ta Jacob, good evening to you. Ronald, good luck. And to Good Amen, good evening to everybody watching on social media. I will come back to you, the Secretary General for the Popular Actions Party, Fabrice Lena. Let's look at the inclusiveness of those who are of this retreat, so to say. Are you very, very comfortable with those who are taking part in the retreat?
Mr. Leo, my first remark will be that it was not inclusive. It was not inclusive. Last year, virtual conference, like I said, it was relatively inclusive. But for the retreat, where we have to foster more trust and accountability among ourselves, the degree of inclusiveness reduced. When I went to the list of the stakeholders invited and the organizations they are representing, I felt that, but why are actors of main political parties from this part of the respective regions not invited. I did not see SDF, I did not see PAP, I did not see CPP. So I was wondering, why would someone like Punji, Kawala, myself, Japanese, Dr. Munsu, so many other people that I was expecting to see them there, they were not there. So at the level of the inclusiveness, that is why I said there is a question mark. Even at the level of media personalities, because I believe that some TV stations like My Media Prime, like some other TV stations, they have a voice to say as to the content they diffuse, the programs they organize to educate people. There are so many people who rely on these TV programs to be informed about what is happening. And it is the same TV station and television programs that we are using to communicate, to debate, to share ideas, to explore and implore into the approaching events happening by our contributions and debates. So it is also important for the people who are managing this local media outlets to be part of anything that is to bring everyone on board. Because at this point, everybody have a say. There is no single person who can claim to have the mandate of the people of Southern Cameroon. And if we are going to do something that at least 80% of the Southern Cameroonians will be comfortable with, there should be at least 90% of representation from all organizations of Southern Cameroon, be it legitimate or illegitimate, be it legal or illegal,
Fabrice,
be it in the country or out of the country.
Fabrice, but you talked about the fact that almost 40,000 persons took part in the virtual meeting that took place, organized by the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation last year. But do you also understand that this time around it has to do with logistics, paying flight tickets, hosting persons in hotels, amongst others?
Yes, that is not a problem. That is not a problem. In this 2021, we have seen organizations in Yaoundé that sponsored the coming together of 1,500 women in Yaoundé, Women Peace Convention. Where did the logistics come from? I believe the same organizations that are sponsoring those kind of meetings could sponsor it. Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation is made up of top-level ambassadors and 20 organizations that are partnered to the CDN. 20 organizations. We are not talking of micro-local organizations. We are talking of multi-level organizations that have the capacity to mobilize funds. I don't think logistics is a problem. Before the COVID-19 2020 came around March, that made it difficult for travelers. The first virtual conference that was held was actually something that was supposed to be physical meeting. It was supposed to be a physical meeting in the US at the initial stage. So there is a lot for us to understand. And all the participants of last year's virtual conference had their email and contact details taken by the CDN. But information about this retreat was given in a very in a very funny way. It is true that if one last people who are at the organizing, you will not have gotten information about the organization. So that's why I criticize the inclusiveness of this particular organization. Aside that, I am encouraging the initiative.
Yes, but aside the fact that not everybody is included in the retreat, like yourself, the SDF, the CPP, amongst others, the media, we are not also there. But why is this retreat raising a lot of dust, dissenting voices amongst the same persons who are seemingly seeking the same objective?
Yes, Mr. Leo. One other aspect of this retreat is that I had said it and I will still say it. In conflict situations, the PhD holders, the ambassadors and the big diplomats not think that They have the monopoly of knowledge and they master the situation by designing a very beautiful website and putting everything in the category of conflict management, humanitarian needs, this and that. No. In conflict situation, consultation is very important. One of the aspects is the people on ground are playing a lesser role to the organization of such a retreat than the people in the diaspora. That is one other aspect. And the people in the diaspora have the flexibility to do these things in a more comfortable way than us on the ground. What is the problem here? The problem here is that the more people come from the ground, from the country, the more it will help to solve and facilitate the problem. And the more the participants are from the diaspora, the lesser it will help us to yield the fruits. And one other aspect, if you look at people who are criticizing the CDN and rubbishing it after they have been invited to participate, I will say it is out of bad faith. Mr. Leo, to build trust, accountability, and a pathway of having this conflict ended, whether we like it or not, whether somebody is separatist, federalist, or whatever opinion he or she holds, we must first of all accept our differences, accept to take our opinions. You can take somebody's everything, but not the person's will. Even in conflict, people have their convictions and their will. So people should not think that they are going to force other people to accept their ideology. And it is not by hate, it is not by threat, it is not by propaganda. It should be by generating a degree of love to say, okay, this is this man's point of view, this is my own point of view. But we must agree in order to forge ahead together. So this is what we are trying to say. It is true, we are saying the CDN should upgrade on how to better organize these conferences, but we are telling people not to spread hate about it, not to be doing the kind of negative propaganda sabotage about it. We remain positive and we have to be civil enough, we have to be human, we have to be humane, we have to know that the suffering of our people is enough and it is time for us to look for possible means of solving this problem collectively.
That might, Jarvis, can we understand the logic behind those who are categorical about the fact that anything good could come out of the CDN retreat?
You know, these are people who probably hijacked the revolution from when it initially started, because if you see the people who are going back are people who were at the forefront, who were at the CDN, who were at the forefront from when it started. Agbobala was when the consortium started, and you had Yerima. Oh, there are people who started from a peaceful perspective. Those who we saw the face of the revolution late
you said
2016.
Earlier on that Ayabacho has been...
Yes, from Ayabacho and Bala have been advocating for this for, I think that should be 1996. There's a video I saw in 1996. I think that was in, if it's not in Norway, somewhere in...
It was in Belgium.
In Belgium, yes. In Belgium. And you see, these are people who understood what they were doing, and they are following the roadmap. And those who are criticizing, it's not like they were not invited. They were invited, but they shun it because they want it their way. They want a new elite, like what we have in Northwest and Southwest, where some government Anglophone ministers are afraid that this conflict should be resolved because they will lose their importance of being elites in this area. It's the same thing we are experiencing in the separatist camp, where we have a people who are afraid that if it's resolved, they will not have that voice again. The new elite class, there will be a new elite class. So we have a clash of elitism at both ends. What is happening in elitism in the government bench is also what is happening in elitism in the non-act separatist group bench. So this is the first scenario. Now the second scenario that we are witnessing are the people who feel like that, you know, because they were not given the pride of place to be seen as a pusher of this deal, it should not be respected. And it's common, it's a normal human nature to feel that way. But what we must understand is that what is your interest of the Anglophone? Good education. Peace should return. People should go back to their village. Good healthcare, good transport system, justice, peace and equity. What is the interest of Bala? The same thing. What is the interest of the centralization person? The same thing. Then let's keep away our position and go to our interest. It is the interest that we are looking for, not position. If we go by position, we have strong conviction, but if we go by interest, so this CDN, they were coming to look at interest. Okay, why you say you want separation? That's what they will give you, because, Mr. Leo, whether you like it or not, separatists, Yerima separatists, Ayabacho separatists, they have the same agenda, the same philosophy like IG separatists, like that of Sako. It's the same. So you take one or two, it represents the same faction. So they have the same ideology. You cannot tell me that modus operandi is different. They have the same separation or nothing else. So I must not bring you, or if you must be part of it. And secondly, thirdly, Mr. Kum, there's something that we fail to understand here. When I heard Fabrice was talking about the fact that politicians were not called, I want to say that politicians, if they were called, it would have rubbished the idea, because they will come down with politics. It's not time for politics. It's time for humanitarian work. Let's finish the peace. Then after that, the politician, because the politicians themselves have not come as one voice since the conflict started. They have not seen a joint communique from the same politicians. They have not even been united as one front in this conflict. So if they want to talk under what, they have the mandate. Naturally, they are the people who have the mandate, but we don't see them. They are legalized body in Cameroon. We have not seen them as CDN has come to as a people. Yet they expect CDN to organize and invite them so that they should come and pay their flight and enjoy plane and go and get pictures in Canada, snap while they were in Canada. It is not a safari trip. CDN is a come together to resolve the Anglophone crisis. What I will give as addition, because you know this is feedback, and we must encourage feedback in every organization. Those of us, the feedback I'm giving is that CDN next time should handpick delegate from the hardest hit area. That is a delegate from Menchum, a delegate from Meme, a delegate from Akwaya, a delegate from Fako, a delegate from all this area, a delegate. These are people who live the existing reality. Yeah. They will come now with the voice, a collective voice of people in their individual division, and table it there and say, okay, this is what we have. I think these are the suggestions I'll give CDN. Okay. Another suggestion briefly I'll give CDN is that the media should not be drop out. The media should also be a priority to this, because the media shape the voice and opinion of people. You are a host, you will bear with us that when you leave a program, you hear cause grandfather, this one that you talk so, but how have you said this thing go end? Now we are only reporting based on what we have.
Who calls you like that?
You receive anonymous calls. From when you have a program, you see number just call you grandfather. This one at the talk for down on television. So how have you said this thing go end? And when they keep calling you like that, you ask yourself, it means the common man himself down there doesn't have an idea of what is happening. So with the media, we are not saying invite personal journalists, but we have associations, journalism associations. What if you get the heads of this association? They will come back and tell us too that, okay, these are the challenges journalists have been facing. Journalists, this is what we expect now from you. I have attended this, I have seen the ideas, and this is what we expect from you. To me, that will help.
Good evening. So, to you politicians, because they did not call you, the meeting is not final. Why they don't decide for suffer we so? No place where some of we dey, while some of una wicked so, because you know una no go for meeting. Now it's a bad one. So God will judge everyone who does not want us to know peace again in Cameroon. But is this you are coming from Boya? I don't know whether this is the feeling that you guys have out there.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Like I said before, if you
are people desperate.
Yes, the people are desperate for a return to normalcy. Howbeit, they are equally conscious of the fact that if justice does not take place, if frank dialogue does not take place, then all of these things too will be some kind of a window dressing. So what they want is that let these things take place so that they too can come out of their life. I just want to add by telling most of these guys who see this CDN to be a problem. Let me share with them something. George Washington, for those of you who do not know, did not actually start the American War of Independence. When New York and the rest of the 13 colonies, they had their different leaders. It was only time that they saw the need to kick off the Brits from America, they decided to unite. Even the Palestinian Liberation Movement, which was in Palestine, the PLO, for those who do not know, Yasser Arafat did not actually begin the plow. Yasser Arafat was just a student in Egypt who was born in Egypt by a Palestinian parent and saw the need and also joined the Palestinians who were in Egypt and the union they put together. And because of their different shade of opinions, they thought that it was good to come together. And that is how Yasser Arafat succeeded to take over Palestine, which we now have the state of Palestine. So for those who do not know these things, they don't just fall like that. We see the same case even with the Taliban. The Taliban had fractions. And because they could unite, we saw that America, no matter how they were so strong in Afghanistan, they had to leave. So the CDN is a need. It is a need because, first of all, the people on the ground, the common man on the ground saw this thing as maybe something that you get up today and then by tomorrow morning you see a change around you. And now that they have tested the difficulties in it, they want it to end. Now, they don't want it to end with injustice. They want it to end with justice. And these are all steps towards justice. So we cannot give in to people who do not reside in Cameroon. I will still say this. Those who have their foreign nationalities and they want to subject the people to permanent torture and misery, the truth is that the man on the ground will not want to take this. And like we did see, there was a time in one of the villages in the northwest wherein we saw the population crying when the military was about to leave. So you can clearly see that the person whom you consider your enemy and the one you consider your own is rather running towards your enemy. That is to tell you that it has become unpopular on his own side. I just said that before now I could not board a taxi from my 16 to Moliko or to Boyatown. I would rather go to my 17. Most often before now I'll walk on foot, get to my 17 before I could see a taxi. But today is not the case. That would tell you that even the people on the ground, they too say, okay, why should we be punishing ourselves to such an extent? We should allow these things so we can also have life. So I think that the common man is actually facing this difficultly. And if we don't get these things and put them in the right way, there's no way you are going to have the credit.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Damien Chair from Bamenda. Politicians have failed in solving the Anglophone crisis. The CD Canada is a laudable in effort to solving this crisis. I prefer all active politicians be sidelined. Okay. Yeah, good evening. Good evening, all. Jembe Eric Jarvis is very important. All factions with the same ideology should be on the table because some may refuse to drop guns in the end. And mind you, one of the key, if an actor fighting with guns was not present, take it or leave it. The group, I don't know, not too clear. Yes, but is it also not important for those who should consider going to Canada to also consider the plight of the people, like he said?
That is the main reason, or the raison d'etre of every other thing should be the common man. When he talked about politicians, and we all laughed because they have painted the image of just themselves. What they are supposed to do, they are not doing. They consider that they are angry because their politicians have not been invited. They don't have visa. They don't have visa. So everybody thinks about personal gain. But the same with those in the diaspora who are trying to rubbish it because they're not the ones in front. So it's not about the people of Southern Cameroon again. It's about individual who should be negotiated with, so that when it comes to money, I can easily gain. When it comes to the name and influence and power. So Mr. Leo, I think that we are making very big mistakes. The politicians, and I want to raise something, the media too. Some factions of the media are not helping in this. They're not helping in this this call or drive for peace. If you see the way they paint even these things, even this CDN that we are talking about, if you see the way some part of the media paints it, you will regret, because it seems as if many people have laughed about it, the economy of war, the business of war. So I think politicians and the media too, who have an important part to play, some part of the media who has an important part to play, should be able to follow the path to peace. We have all laughed about politicians. Some of us are still laughing about the media. So I just think that whoever is interested in the CDN should be interested primarily, or first and foremost, in the local man in the community.
Okay, I'll take this one. Esther, writing from Yaoundé, says, greetings, good evening, Mr. Leo, and to everyone in the house. Special one to Jarvis. I believe this whole thing is soon coming to an end. Esther is writing, okay. Success, writing from Kribi. Bonsoir à tous et surtout, Monsieur Léo, j'aime le sujet et je vous souhaite un bon soirée. C'est Success depuis Kribi. Good evening to you, Success. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Courage to all the panelists. Kudos to you guys. The retreat of the CDN in Canada is a good initiative which all Southern Cameroonians should applaud. But I may differ in that all the major stakeholders were not there. Second, the retreat was never announced to the public. So such an initiative may not be to welcome because it is lack of inclusiveness. Okay. Molombe Hans is writing from Boya. Daisy from Kumba says, good evening, Mr. Liu, and to all the panelists. The Canada retreat was a good initiative, but I don't think the right leaders of the crisis were present. I wonder the outcome of the retreat. I feel it was a waste of resources. Daisy writing there from Kumba. We're going to take a short break. Where we come back, we move on with our topic for today's edition.
DSTV English Bag. Your subscription enters a new dimension.
It's so nice, it's so nice.
Movies, series, novellas, emotions are more deeper in English language.
That part is a little dramatic.
Enjoy La Liga from the front row and the Premier League in immersion. On Nickelodeon, English is just superpower absolute.
For the surprise, please go now.
With E and One Magic in original version. Reality TV becomes real TV. And on African News and Discovery, News and Discovery shines worldwide. Post new programs with a DSTV English Pack option of Color Plus and its 15 premium channels. Accessible as from 5,000 friends. Take advantage now.
Welcome back. You're watching Prime on My Media Prime. Coming over to you, Fabrice Lena. You want to say something? Okay. It was Fabrice. Let me get to Fabrice. From Fabrice, I'll get back to us here. Yes, Fabrice Lena, if you are there, do you understand the worry expressed by most of our televiewers who say that politicians themselves should do something and not wait for CDN to organize something and invite them? They are challenging you people. What are you people doing to mobilize also to bring stakeholders together in Cameroon?
Mr. Liu, when we called for Cameroonians, those people who sit and are very good at making comment on TV, that they should come for protest in Yaoundé, that the only way out is that the president in Etuti needs to go out. Where were they on the 22nd of September 2020 when I was protesting in Yaoundé? We called them, they did not come out. On the 9th and 10th of February 2020, myself, Kawala, and the others, we organized protests saying that the elections of this legislative and parliamentarian were not going to give us any fruits. Where were they? Because people only sit to make comments. They don't even follow up to know what you have done so far. Their own is only to make comment. I wanted to also talk to my brother who was making a mockery of politicians, saying all of us laughed when they said that politicians. There is no group of people in the Cameroon society that so far attack from all directions like politicians. We are, first of all, suffering repression from the government, suffering criticism from the citizens, and the citizens are never accompanying any politician to any of his projects that they have launched. They are watching TV all the time. They are reading newspaper. We are always coming up with initiatives of proposals how we should solve the problem. Which of them have called you to say that congratulations, I want to contribute by joining, I want to contribute by participating. But if it is to come and make comments about politicians, they are very good. They cannot be a society that politicians are kept aside for other groups of people to take decisions and let the politicians lead. Whether you like it or not, at the end of every situation in the country, it is politicians that will govern. It is politicians that will be mayors. It is politicians that will be parliamentarians. It is politicians that will be president. So whatever thing that happens in Canada, they are preparing a potential political leader to take over leadership and change the situation of the country. Sidelining the politicians will not help any situation, because you will sideline people who have their ideology, and once the ideology grows without your own shape, concern, orientation, nurture, they will implement whatsoever thing they have been growing with it. Whether it affects you positively or negatively, it is not their concern, because you refuse to let them be part of the decision-making mechanism at the very beginning. So it is not even supposed to be a plea for politicians to be part of it. It is imperative that you do not exclude politicians from anything concerning solving problem of a society, because they are the people to take leadership of the country. Whether somebody comes from heaven after this crisis to be the president of Cameroon, or to lead Southern Cameroon, they are politicians. Ayabacho is a politician. Agobala is a politician. Or Denis Forecha is already playing the role of a politician. Who is a politician, if you want to say? Or do you want to say politician is someone who belongs to a political party and have a political leadership position like Fabrice Lena, Obama?
If you consider them,
those people are politicians.
Yeah, but if you consider them politicians, why do you decry the fact that you people are not there when politicians are already there?
We did not, Mr. Leo, we are not decrying that politicians are not there. We are saying that the inclusiveness questions the left out of some major key stakeholders who participated in the virtual conference. I told you that they participated in the virtual conference, and we're expecting to see them participate in a retreat. It is not a crime, but it's simply a criticism to let them know, the organizers know, that sidelining these people. Do you think that the problems of Northwest and Southwest can just be solved like that without SDF playing a role? They still have some people, irrespective of the crisis, that are fans of that party, as well as PAP.
Okay.
There are still some people who are diehards of Fabrice. So you cannot do without putting these people on board.
Fabrice,
Mr. Leo.
Yes, please. Okay, you have something to add?
Yes, one other thing I wanted to add was this. One of my brothers said something there about United Nations. Dr. Munzu said this thing last year during the virtual conference. We should not be expecting United Nations anytime soon to come and arrange our problems. Cameroon belongs to the ECAS sub-region. CEMAC, ECAS is an enlarged part of that. And our problem have never been discussed at the level of ECAS. It has never been discussed at the level of African Union Security Council. Not even agenda in United Nations Security Council, because they take it from the smaller regional organizations. Meaning that whatever initiative to solve this problem must begin by internal dialogue among the politicians, among the humanitarians, among the the media personalities, among us. That is why we are saying CDN initiative is a good one, but it should consider taking everybody from all nooks and crannies. I will say what Javi said, if to go by subdivision or division, it will be a good thing, very good thing. It should not only be limited by people who have taken refuge in Yaoundé, Douala, and the other towns, but they can go right into the nooks and crannies of the southern Cameroon, so take everyone from there. But you must consider politicians for everything to be all right. Because some people always behave as if politicians are the devil. It is sometimes it is the complacency of the population that is making politicians to behave as such. You are not playing your own role as the people who are supposed to check the attitude and behavior of politicians. Why have people of other countries succeeded to put aside bad politicians? Why is it that in your country you are unable to put aside bad politicians? There are also good politicians. If United Arab Emirates from 50 years ago is what it is today and people are going there for tourism, it's because they had good politicians who could implement policies in favor of the population. It's not as if Cameroon is made up of completely bad politicians, but you, the citizen, help them to accompany them across the decision-making and implementation process. That is all we are asking from you, not much. How many Cameroonians have ever come out to decry something? It is not only politicians. Look at what Nigerian celebrities are doing. How many Cameroonian celebrities, in terms of artists, in terms of actors, in terms of entertainers, are doing? Media personalities, how many of them? And then when politicians want to say, you say politician. Please, it should not be a target of a group of people.
We are coming back to you.
This is collective responsibility.
Fabrice, we are coming back to you. You criticize every day now. They have just said one thing. You want to talk for 2 hours. Okay. Actually, the CDN's objective is to obtain an internationally mediated process in whatever is happening. They are not there to actually handle the dialogue. They hope that they can bring stakeholders together and then make sure that eventually there is a dialogue that is led by the international community. You see that as the best way out? Must it be the international community to mediate what is happening in Cameroon?
Yes, Mr. KUM, we need a third party. Okay. No, a neutral body, because on the both sides we have the Cameroon government and the commanditors. So we need a neutral body. But I'll first of all go back to the criticism that was being posed on politicians, because I am a politician. Mr. KUM, you know, virtually in the whole world, politicians call the shots. Nothing happens in the world without politicians. They control the world. And I believe that all the stakeholders that were present at the CDN meeting, all of them are politicians, Mr. KUM. You as a journalist, you are a politician, okay? Politics is a day-to-day lifestyle. We all practice politics. But now the problem is those that have an ideology, that are hidden under a banner of a political party and are having a political party and their ideology. We call them those that have chosen or pronounced politicians. In Cameroon, I don't believe that politicians are the ones that have problem. It is the Cameroon government that makes it difficult for politicians to state out their plights concerning this problem. Because I visited one TV station and we talked about the National Assembly that has escaped. You know, the National Assembly and the MPs were supposed to talk about this problem. But till date, we haven't had any session that was included, that the Anglophone problems were included. Why? Do you think that the politicians are not feeling the pain? We have elites from this region like Honorable Nghateng. Recently, he was in the United States. He spoke with some of the commanditors of these Amazonian fighters who are living in the US. So the problem is politicians in Cameroon, as we can all say, some of them are barely politicians, but we still have genuine politicians like Honorable Nghateng and myself who still feel the pain, and we take the bull by the horn to talk about this problem. So just categorizing that all politicians have failed, no. Politicians cannot be excluded from this problem because we are one of the forces for these problems to come to an end. Going back to the question of looking for a third party to mediate for, for an inclusive dialogue, it is very important because on the both sides there is no trust. The Cameroon government no longer trusts the Amazonian fighters or their commanditors. On the other hand, the commanditors who are living in the United States, Maryland, France, and everywhere, they no longer have trust for the Cameroon government. So they need a third party that will stand as a mediator to bring out conditions favorable for all of us to sit down and talk so that together we can look for solutions for a lasting peace. So politicians must be included in everything we do, Mr. KUM. It is very important for us to note. It is not because perhaps the UPC was not called on this retreat that we are going to say it's a failure. No, it is something positive. But the only problem is next time they should try to announce so that those that are willing to come, they should be able to come. What are the criteria? How did they organize this meeting? Who are those that sponsored this? These are things that were supposed to be made public so that we all can say, okay, I want to participate. I myself, I could pay my flight and I travel to Toronto and be part of this, because there is something I can bring that will help for the Anglophone crisis to come to an end. So I think that the aim for the meeting, it's positive. It's something that everybody that needs peace should be able to accept. Even though you were not invited as a politician or as a civil body or as a religious body, we should not totally have a negative aspect on this, because all we need is peace. And every solution that will bring peace to Cameroon, I think that the UPC accepts it. It is very important.
Okay, very important. Yeah.
I think I love the way she puts it, that even though CUPC was not invited, they still like the initiative, and that next time, I think those are the word we expect from politicians. And I want to beg to differ a bit with Fabrice. Nobody's condemning politicians, and Fabrice should understand that nobody has monopoly over becoming a politician. And the fact that major stakeholders were not called doesn't mean that other politicians were not called. First, Mr. KUM, Fabrice cited 3 important parties, political parties in the Anglophone region that, they were supposed to be there, like the SDF, the CPP, and the PAP. But these 3 parties have not come together as one voice in this, as one voice, have not come together. And if Fabrice said, when politicians call for protest, people don't go, it means there's a problem with the parties. There's a problem with the ideology. There's a problem with political education. There's a problem, how do you educate your militants? How do you explain your idea to your militant? If you call yourself a political party, you must have a follower. And if you cannot explain and educate them, it comes to the issue of lack of political education. I keep singing it here on your platform that our political parties don't give political education to their followers. They are only bent on Biya must go. If Biya must go, and what next? What education are you giving? From what empowerment are you empowering your followers? Such that if you are calling for a protest, if they don't come, it means there's a problem with the ideology of the party. I don't think that it is because the masses or Cameroonians don't want to hate to call to politicians. No, it is wrong. Cameroonians are very educated. Cameroonians they have high level-headedness in following political ideologies. If it is not clear, they don't go. If it is clear, they go. You have other political parties whom we saw people on September 22 and went on the street. Based on the ideology is how you interpret your idea. So politicians should have this interpretation. Secondly, Mr. Leo, when we look at what happened there, when politicians are saying that why key stakeholders will definitely need to be on the table, yes, they will definitely need to be on the table. But what are they doing at the individual end? Keep aside protests. What are they doing at the individual end to meet the need of the humanitarian need of the peace-loving people of Northwest and Southwest region? Very few political parties have gone down to the field to meet the humanitarian need, that is giving food to the internally displaced, giving medical care to the internally displaced, sheltering the internally displaced, paying hospital bills, taking them to school, meeting Lucas here and telling Lucas, okay, we know you are hosting internally displaced, this is a small token we have for your organization while we push the political agenda, but take care of these potential voters in the next 5 years so that they should have education and they grow. We don't have it. So you see how the political landscape, they are only focusing on Biya must go. But what if we sit down as a people and ask ourselves, what are the needs of these internally displaced as politicians? Okay. What can we make of?
I want
to Q?
Yes, in Cameroon, it seems that to become a political party, you have just one agenda. Biya must go.
No, that's not the topic.
No, I'm just saying, I'm just adding something.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Leo. Good evening, and thanks for always keeping the people informed. A special congratulations to the CDN and all patriotic Southern Cameroonian leaders who are presently in Canada trying to find a lasting solution to the Anglophone crisis. Some politicians in Cameroon have been unable to discuss the Anglophone crisis in Parliament. They should never be invited in any conference concerning the crisis. Mbonwu Divine from Bamenda. Okay. Good evening to you, Divine. Now, we're talking about the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation. They themselves have said it very clear that they are not there to engage in any dialogue or negotiation. They are a platform that wants to to offer itself to get persons from out of the country to mediate in what is happening. You think that they should not also start considering getting people from within Africa?
If you look at most of the members of the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation, you will realize that these are persons who have either been victimized by the regime in one way and another. Yeah, if you get the likes of Bala, if you get the likes of Cho Oyaba, if you get the likes of, you know, there was a time I think even yes,
but they're not members.
Yeah,
they went for the retreat, but we have.
Yes, yes, I'm coming. These are the people who are pushing forward the agenda from the ground, from the country, because these are the people whom the people on the ground will want to trust and they want to believe in. Now, yes, the agenda, the whole agenda for the Coalition of Dialogue and Negotiation is not to sit with the government of Cameroon. It is to look for potential peace brokers. It is to look for people. They are just like a lobbying group. They want to lobby for recognition. They want to lobby for listening ear. They are lobbying for the image of the people of the British Southern Cameroon, the former British Southern Cameroons, the people of the Northwest and Southwest, so that if the White House needs to sit and make certain policies, they need to know. If the Chatham House want to sit and make policies, they need to know. If the House of Lords want to sit and make policies, they need to know. If Elysee Palace needs to want to sit and make certain policies, they need to know.
Crimea.
If the Crimea wants to sit, they need to know. So this is the purpose of which they have come together. Now, what gets my attention so much is the Archbishop Emeritus. If you recall, there was a time he granted an interview wherein he said, we cannot be claiming that the country is one and indivisible when we already have language barriers, when we have certain things which are these barriers. So they know that because of the mindset that some of the members of the regime, which of course, the major problem here is that the regime in place does not see itself as a means to solve this problem, as most of the people have already put it. So they are moving towards now meeting others, because the regime, some people, some surrogates of the regime have said, we do not know, even if the government needs to discuss, with whom would they be talking with. And so this Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation is out there to look for people whom the government should be talking with. But like your question goes, to me, there are Cameroonians. I am fit to sit on the table for any dialogue that will bring lasting peace in the Northwest and Southwest regions of Cameroon. We have Cameroonians who are capable. The problem here is that most of those who had had the opportunity before and they had to throw it into the dustbin, either out of corruption, out of bad faith, and many more, they see themselves not qualified. It is the reason why they want to bring in another person to sit and discuss this with. But it doesn't mean that the people of the Northwest and Southwest will not be part of it. The same members in the likes of the Archbishop Emeritus, Barrister Agbobala, Yerima, Cho Ayaba, these are people we cannot throw them away from being part of this discussion, because like Javi said earlier, it will be very difficult. Now, we have the different fractions. Mr. Leo, if you look around most of the divisions, we have self-arrogated generals. These are persons whom we should not also throw aside. And these generals will not want that there should be a dialogue where they will not be a part of it. So I think that there are things we really have to consider. We are in a situation where some people want to call it a deadlock, but I don't see it that way, because what is rather happening is the people's willingness not to accept another man's idea. If we want to stand on the other side and the other person stand on the other side, and you say the middle part, we should not meet there, then it will be very difficult. It is time for us, the people of the Northwest and Southwest, to also look into some of these things and start finding out ways to, come out of this stalemate. Because if we think that the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation meets the White House and the White House meets the regime in place to discuss with them, there is still something that will transpire that we may not know at the end of the day. So I think it is a need for the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation to consider the civil society organizations on the ground. We may want to roll out the politicians. If I were to comment on this, I'll be saying that, Mr. Leo, please, the politicians, they have proven already to the people that they are not capable enough to solve this problem. We have not seen a coalition of politicians heading to New York to lobby. We have not seen a coalition of politicians heading to the Chatham House or heading to the Buckingham Palace or to Crimea to lobby. Because whether we like it or not, Those who have the military might in the world will want to control the world. And you cannot stand as an island. There is something we need to know. We must by all means try to work with others who matter on earth. And we have persons in the likes of the Crimea, in as much as some people see them as being too dangerous. But I want to say that once they are also there to balance power, you cannot meet America and you throw away Russia. In as much as they have a meeting point, but there are things we must consider. The Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation, whatever they will be doing, Cameroonians are capable. We have people of the Northwest and Southwest who are capable, who have that degree of trust from their people to sit on the dialogue table and dialogue with the regime in place.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Every initiative taken towards attaining peace should be welcome, but the impact will create depends on its transparency and inclusiveness. It's time for stakeholders to see emerging venues and accept their differences. Tiku Felix is writing from Boya. Good evening, Mr. Liu and panelists. The exclusion of any political party or political leaders in such an important meeting to discuss on peace foundation is better. The issue is political parties or their leaders fail to play their politics and influence the parliament to put an end to this senseless war. So they should not wait for others to come together for them to hijack the show. Tambe Hans is writing from Yaoundé. Greetings, Mr. Leo. It's Chumbeng from Bamenda. I'm happy with the assembly in Toronto, for it's similar to what Kadnatumi wanted in Boya. Even though I haven't heard any resolution, the meeting is coming late but better. But I have not seen some people from the southern Cameroon expected to be part of such an assembly. Have been waiting for such meeting ever since. This crisis is more complex because those leading the Anglophones have different objectives. Some for secession, others for federation, and so on. Even these for independence are already fighting for posts without getting the independence first. Okay. Good evening to you. Your take on the possibility for an international instance, country, organization to come into what is taking place in Cameroon.
There is a possibility for the international community to come in, but I must begin to say that it's very dangerous if they come in for us, because it will entail interest. You know, the international relations, they don't come in if they don't have interest. So, and I also think that, like Mr. Lucas noted, if it's not being discussed either in the CEMAC or in the African Union or in the UN Security Council, I don't think that the international community as a whole will want to come in, because it will not be serious unless it gets to that level where the Security Council discusses it. Then you have now the international community coming in.
So, let me take this one message. Good evening to you all, Mr. Leo. Cameroon government is always late, but it's better late than never. Eno is writing from the United States. Leila, please use your common sense, okay? There are people in that meeting in Canada that share the same idea with those you have mentioned. Everyone is not supposed to be in Canada, my brother. But then, Fabrice Lena, I would like to read some of the names. Is Fabrice there, please? High-profile attendees among Cameroonian civil society included Professor Carlson Annang, who has been one of the most articulate voices of the Southern Cameroon's case across generations. The moderator of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, Right Reverend Funky Samuel. The Archbishop Emeritus Eswa Barrister Bobala of the Center for Human Rights and Democracy Africa. The US-based US Institute of Peace award-winning peace crusader Esther Omam. Former SDF MP for Boyo, Paulinus Joa, amongst others. Are these not representative enough of those who are coming from Cameroon? Are you undermining the caliber of persons who are leaving Cameroon to be part of the retreat?
It's like my message had not been going through since. I said that the people who have participated on behalf of the organizations, it's plausible. I started by appreciating here and what I only question the inclusiveness issue, which I think we have already discussed sufficiently on that.
Okay.
I said we are waiting on the public statement that CDN is going to make, that they are going to take back home. I have been discussing with some of the participants, and they said, well, it's good. So we are waiting for what it will bring for us to work together and see what we can derive from that. So besides that, I wanted to tell my brother, I think is Mr. Lucas, the other speaker, who was mentioning some names recurrently as though they are the people managing or steering CDN. CDN is being steered, the steering committee in charge of organization is Dr. Dennis Forentia, Judith Mwana, Ebai Eban, Ondi, Henry Adam, Valentine Montana, Cletus Nde, Julius Agbo. Those are the people in the steering committee in charge of organization. The other people, Ayabacho, Bala, and the rest are just guest invitees, because CDN is a facilitating house. It's just a facilitating organization, helping to bring voices together, to synchronize, to harmonize voices. Why did we say it's important for it to be inclusive? In the harmonization of voice, it is dangerous to leave out a voice that might come to be included in the later part of the process of building peace. I am a young politician that I belong to so many initiatives as far as solving this Anglophone crisis is concerned. And I know what I'm talking about. And I know the discussions that are unfolding in so many forums with people also that are stakeholders. Because when we talk of followers or we talk of people that people are commanding, there is no data, none of us sitting there have the access to the database of people's organization or individual database of people who are looking up to them, who are following their activities, who are telling them what they are doing is good or is not good. So at this point, making a declaration of saying that some people have failed, if some people have succeeded, be it the religious authorities, civil society or humanitarian authorities, I would have been expecting the crisis to be solved by now, by those people. Because someone said, where did the politicians gather themselves to go and maybe look for solutions to the problem? We have been doing advocacy and civil disobedient actions in this country to the eyes of many people who are seeing.
Fabrice Lena.
We have been
Fabrice Lena
out of the country to do that.
Fabrice Lena, some persons are questioning the absence of government officials at this retreat. Was it important to have government representatives at the retreat?
I think strategically no, Mr. Leo, strategically no, not to have government officials at this stage. Some government officials who are Southern Cameroonians might come in a later stage, because the difficulty now is that even inside Southern Cameroon, you can see that some people have declared they cannot sit with some other people who they think or feel are blacklegs or have betrayed them or are not credible enough. You know, some people already have their own principles, self-boundary, and measures that are put in place to measure other people. So if it is tough for a federalist and a separatist to sit on the same table, how more of a separatist or a federalist and a unionist? You can imagine if it is difficult for someone who is saying that there is nothing to negotiate about Ambazonia, and me saying that we should try to see how to reform this country to a federal structure. And I'm having difficulties to understand myself with someone who is in the government. How more of that person in the government understanding with someone who is that way? And we understand the stakes because at the level of diplomacy and politics, it's a little bit easy because we are talking about words, we are talking about understanding, we are talking about soft power. But in the field, back home is hard power, where we are talking of death, We are talking of people who have killed, who have carried out gruesome acts, who have done things that are painful and not easily forgetful. So we must not undermine these basic human rights issues that are underlying it. We must also not undermine the fact that some people's family are not in a condition of living well, those that their houses have been burned and all this. So there are some specific conditions of this conflict that has put some people into tight corner. You know, there was a time I visited a group of refugees in Nigeria, and some people there are saying they have nothing to ever to discuss with Cameroon, simply because they have burned all their houses. And from the person's personal standpoint of view, you can understand the person's lamentation. How are you going to gain back your livelihood as a human being, your dignity, your existence as a human being, given that you have lost all things that makes you to exist as a human being? And then the person who has caused such harm to you on the other side, or who was in complicity of the actual executioner of the act, is calling you now that you people should come and sit on the same table. So that is the necessity of a third party to say, well, look, in conflict situation, after all the harm, we need to reconcile, we need to build trust. So we are saying that this process of trust and building among ourselves, people need to understand that the variance in point of view does not make us enemies.
Okay.
It makes us accept diversity.
Okay, Fabrice.
It makes us accept.
Fabrice, I'll be getting back to you. I'll get back to you, Nadieh. I actually had a question for Dr. Henry Atem, who is a coordinator of the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation. I was asking him whether the fact that another faction was not part of this retreat, a faction that is also involved in the crisis, whether it was not going to influence the outcome. And he said that it would not, because consultations are going to continue with everybody so that subsequently they can get everybody on board.
Well, Mr. KUM, you know, that was one of the problems I stated previously, because, you know, all the fractions were not present at the retreat in Toronto, so it will be a big problem. But the issue is, if they can continue, as you said, consultation and call the other parties to come and sit down so that you can talk and bring a common solution to bring out favorable conditions for, you know, for a dialogue, an inclusive dialogue in Cameroon to end Anglophone crisis, it's very important. But seeing the way things are going, because it has become, like I previously said, this issue has become, if I am not the person organizing something, it wouldn't work. If I am not the person in front, it wouldn't work. So there is a hate speech or propagation of hate speech against this, you know, this retreat. So it will play a huge role. It can still go right to ground zero, as we usually say. They can call out, okay, let us do this, and they can continue committing atrocities. And Mr. KUM, if this coalition for a dialogue and negotiation comes to, you know, reality, and the Cameroon government comes together and speak with those that are present, the stakeholders who are present, I think that at one point, those that are against this can sabotage that. And they can keep continuing killing people in the bushes, in Bamenda, Boya, in the southwest regions and everywhere. So it is a great problem, because we need to rally everybody. We need to find a common ground so that we can end the problem together. Because once I am not part of this thing, I will continue committing my atrocities. They have their generals still carrying guns out there in the bushes. They will keep killing people. And maybe it will say, like, okay, like what we said, all the times of the Grand National Dialogue was not really effective, because we are still having killings, people are not going to school and all that. It will still be the same. So I think that at one point, the stakeholders or those that are organizing this coalition should be able to rally everybody. There should not be, you know, a taboo topic. You come with what you have. If you are for federation, if you are for separation, or you are for a unitary but decentralized state, you come together, let us talk and look for a common ground, and we bring the third party and look for a neutral place, like we have gone to Toronto in Canada to seek for a solution. So I think it is very important, because if they just continue with what they have organized and abandoning the others, like I heard somebody saying that, at the end of the day, they are going to declare those others as terrorists or this. They will keep committing atrocity, because we are having a guerrilla war front there. We don't know when these guys come out, they hit and run method, they disappear. So it is very important that everybody should come with his or her problem on the table so that we can talk and bring out a common ground. But it has become something very selfish that some people need money. Some people, they have, like some say, they have invested a lot of money to buy arms to fit those boys in the bushes. At one point, if they are not, they don't call them for negotiation or pay them, because you know it has become a war of an economic gain. You understand? Of an economic gain, and most of them, they need to be recompensated. The Cameroon government needs to understand these things. The commanditors that are living in the United States, Maryland, they just need to be compensated. We saw when the Prime Minister visited Boya. We saw when he visited the Northwest region, and some of the chiefs told the Prime Minister, come and see us so we go and negotiate. It is a core language, but we cannot understand. We need to negotiate with those boys. Most of those boys in the bushes now, they will say, okay, if we drop our guns, how are we going to live? Those that have been sponsoring them, they have spent a lot of money, so they need to be recompensated. At one point, those that are organizing this coalition should understand that we are, those that are saying we are not together with you guys, they just need to understand their language. So we come together so that we can be recompensated, and what we have spent should be paid. It is interest, Mr. Kum. It is not because perhaps they are crying for Cameroon, or perhaps they too much love Cameroon. It is a personal interest for me. Because we can see Abogbala, he's still there, he's at the front run. Do you think he loves Cameroon more than everybody? No. There is an interest, okay, Mr. Kum. At every point, there is an interest.
I want to say that everybody has invested lives.
This is investment.
This is investment, everybody. But now, we should not look at the physical cash that people are being paid. Everybody, what of the person who have lost loved ones? You go and resurrect the person, because no, to me, the way forward is that let's come and sit on the table and look at, yes, brother, I went wrong. Yes, sister, I went wrong. Yes, let's move forward and let's keep aside our differences and build a better nation, a better people. We cannot build a better nation and a better people with paying compensation to whoever invested. Nobody, it's not a financial institution, or it's not it was not a business.
I just think that's a wrong move.
Mr. Kum, let me.
I understand where you are going to,
yes,
to put the word
I think that's a wrong move, because
look,
you have to compensate every other person.
Everybody, you go and resurrect people who have been killed.
Because the common man has lost the highest. Or people have something, but I just think what Mr. Jeffries is saying is the right thing to do now. We have to keep some people behind. Those who are ready
those languages will not be heard by the commanding
those who are ready. For example, take for example the Ambazonian coalition team was not present. I believe they were invited. Yeah. The Swiss government and officials that they were talking mediation with them, they were invited. Instead, the Ambazonian coalition team did not come. So how do you explain this? How do you the national dialogue was, okay, it was a monologue. Now that is something, coalition is out of the country, why not come and discuss and bring in your points and see how we can build a nation together?
Mr. Kum, there is one thing we need to understand about this retreat, okay, this retreat. Because, you know, the other parties are saying that perhaps it was being sponsored by the government. Abogbala and those that were present, the stakeholders that were present, they are there not because they love Cameroon more than anybody. They are there, first of all, for their personal interest.
Are you saying...
No, Mr. Kum, they are there, first of all, for their personal interest.
Are you saying that if you were invited and you attended, you would have gone there because of your personal interest?
Mr. Kum, I would have gone there not because of my personal interest, but there is something we need to understand, okay? We need to understand that those that are taking the front line, it has become a business, Mr. Kum. This started like, you know, the Anglophones or the English-speaking Cameroonians were decrying their marginalization, but it turned to an economic gain. And, you know, on the other side, those that are saying that we are not with the CDN, it is because they haven't found their interest in it. Most of them invested. Yes, we had casualties. I myself, I lost a loved one, but those are just casualties. Those that spend their money, they want them to be rambunced.
The only interest
if the government
that these people have
language,
is one.
It
the
is not
interest
one.
of the common man to have good justice system, good educational system, affordable healthcare, good road construction, and a better educational system. That is the interest.
Mr. Jarvis,
please, let him come here.
Yes, I think when we look at the CDN, the purpose for which this retreat was called was not for those who left the ground, such in the likes of Barrister Bala and the rest, to Canada. These are people who they went over with the voices of the others they have been dealing with. If you talk about this crisis, Bishop Emeritus Cornelius, we should not forget, was at the beginning of this crisis. He understands this crisis very well. The most hardest hit areas in the Northwest region is where he has controlled. So when you talk about that, the church which he headed has a certain number that cuts across every community which he controls. And from the reports they get on the ground, the same thing with Right Reverend Samuel Funky Foba, the same thing with every other person who attended. If they sought my opinion, I'll equally give to them, because myself, I have not less than 300 persons whom I have sampled their minds, whom I know what they are going through on a daily basis. So I want to say that this CDN that was called, this retreat that was called by the CDN, as we all know, this is not the body that is going to meet the government as per their projections. This is actually a body or an organization whose interest is to lobby and get the right people whom they think will be in a better place to have a dialogue with the government. And I'm coming again to say that we will not allow it in the hands of the strange people to discuss with the government. I think we are Cameroonians, we are a bona fide people of the Northwest and Southwest regions, and as such, we have absolute right to also take part in it. Now, the point here is, for those who do not want this coalition to take place, the list could go on and on and on and on and on for several examples for us to see the reason why we have to accept these people. I have said that if we want this, if the CDN wants the people's voices to be represented, we have, if we can get the situation where we had the 3 weeks, close to 1 month lockdown, you can vividly recall that there were different fractions. A fraction said, no, it should not be for this entire period. Another fraction came up and said, no, it should be for this entire period. That would tell you that even on the ground, we have shades of opinion. You have General A who wants it to go his way. General B wants it to go his way. So we must have these representations from the grassroots. These people, they have to be a part of it. However, not these guys who are in the Western world call the shot on the ground. These guys are not the ones who call the shot on the ground. We have opportunists among them. And most of those who are castigating the idea, the retreat that is ongoing, those who do not want the CDN to push ahead with this agenda, in as much as the agenda of the CDN is a good one. However, I think we should not also leave aside, we should not sideline the civil society organizations on the ground. It is very paramount to have them on board. It is paramount to get the shade of opinions from the different self-arrogated generals, because we have seen already there was a parameter to determine who can say what and it will stand. There are different fractions, control, there are different areas. Certain days are called, B will not want to respect it, but you find A imposing on B to respect it, and so on. So if we do not put all of these things in place, I tell you the truth, it will not work. But I want to applaud and I want to appreciate the CDN, and I want to actually thank those who are taking part in this retreat. It is a need for this retreat. This is where we go to know those who have the people's representatives. The truth is, so many people would love to be part of this. Not everybody must contribute the way you see it. But once you find the person who can bring forward an idea which you have, it must not be you. We are looking for a solution. We do not want to remain in this. The war will soon be in its 5th year. And I tell you the truth, if the mismanagement of opinions continues, then come next year, we will still be where we are today. So I think, Mr. Leo, the CDN is doing a wonderful job, and the retreat is just timely because we shall be closing this year. And we don't want to close this year without having the way out of this war. The toll on the war is so much on the people. Those who are not bearing the brunt, they will want to sit and castigate it. But those of us who bear it, we know what it means.
Yes, after what is happening in Toronto, I'm sure Wednesday we are still going to be discussing this, because by then we would have had some of the resolutions arrived at out there. But what should follow?
What should follow is that first we should expect joint communique from CDN to explain, or the members of the retreat to explain what were discussed, resolutions that were reached at, long-term goals, short-term goals, and of course a mechanism for feedback, a roadmap what will go, and also a mechanism for feedback, that is people who may want to give suggestions as to how possible subsequent meeting could be organized. The second thing is we expect the politicians now at home, the local politicians at home, to come together and now meet the CDN and ask, okay, we understand that maybe this was taken without our own contribution. How do you think that we can assist you in this effort to see that we move peace forward? When I talk about the politicians, I talk about both ends, from the government bench to the opposition bench. The next issue is we expect the women task force, the Northwest and Southwest Women's Task Force, to also join this move and say, hey, meet these guys and say, what happened? We understand that maybe some of us were not invited. How can we work as a team to push this? And above all, what we should expect from these stakeholders, from the armed group and the not-armed groups, is that they should understand that they are fighting for one interest. And that interest they are fighting for is that they are fighting for affordable health care, good justice system, equal distribution of resources and wealth. And we should understand that those who were at the CDN, as Lucas said, they were coming as peace brokers to bring first the other warring factions together and to see how they can channel or meet diplomatic channels in a way that this matter can be well addressed and handled without much division that we already have. Because the way the crisis, the way we are divided, even division itself is divided, is confused. In fact, confusion itself is confused when you look at the way we are. So I'm sure the CDN is coming together to see how they can create a bit of order out of this. Above all, I want my sister Akwen to understand that those who were there there's a statement that is not like you like Cameroon more than others. To me, we should pipe low when tension are high, because I believe that if UPC or whoever was represented, or even Fabrice was represented, who will not be here saying that they should not, it's not like they like Cameroon more than us. We understand that all of us cannot be there, and whoever is there, the least we can do is to say, Papa, we understand that you have done this wrong. We understand next time when you are representing us, do it like this and do it like this. So to me, that's how we should speak as a people.
Okay. Now, I would like you to react to this. He says the only thing I have to say is, if what everything these leaders are struggling to achieve, if at the end they do not achieve it, then some of us will look for them with the last energy in us and terminate them, because it is because of them that we have lost loved ones and property. My twin brother was killed because of this crisis. These leaders better achieve what they want to achieve. Do you understand what this viewer is saying? Fabrice Lena. Seemingly, Fabrice is not there, but do you understand where it's coming from? Some persons are actually growing out of patience, yes. Like you said.
At the beginning of this crisis, young people and every other person left whatever they were doing to look up to some people who had brought an ideology that was seemingly good to follow. But like Mr. Lucas said, it's not a situation at hand again. People have lost every other thing and they are tired, and the only thing they want to hear is peace and return to normalcy. I can understand the televiewer, the outrage and every other thing. He's tired of this war and every other thing, this suffering. So the only thing he can think of is peace. So wherever and however the peace comes from, he's ready, and he cautions already, if this peace is not achieved, because I'm tired of war, war is destroying me, this crisis is destroying me. So you can understand, Mr. Leo, it's just a time where every other person is willing and just hoping for one thing, only one thing: return to peace and normalcy. And the normalcy, like he said, affordable health care, good education, and all the like. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Com, listening to the televiewer that was The television was talking about, because in the beginning of this crisis, we spoke of English Cameroonians being marginalized. And, some of the commanditors preach what we call independence. They said, okay, we are going to be independent. We are going to control all our resources. And so many people have lost. So that's one of the fear I too have. Because many people down there in these villages or in this, in the Northwest and Southwest, they have lost many things. So many people are no longer going to school. We saw a video of a little girl who got pregnant. Houses being burnt. We have lost a lot of things. Now you see, at the point when they say, okay, now the Cameroon government cannot give us that independence that was being preached by the commanditors of the diasporas of these wars. Now, how are we going to take this? Will it be a shame or a fat blow? It is something that is feared, and it is the truth that they cannot achieve this independence because Cameroon is one and indivisible. And at one point, they are calling on the United Nations to grant us independence. It is not possible. It will be a great blow on the side of those that have built some kind of dream in the minds of English Cameroonians. So it's something that touches everybody, and it's a great fear.
It's something that is this what is running through the minds of many persons now?
No, I actually do not buy that. What we are having from the person who just texted, it's very simple. You can clearly see that he has trust. He still has some hope. There is still some hope in him that despite the loss of my brother, somebody who brought us into this, somebody who told us this was going to be better than the other, is still out there to bring the way out of this. So you can clearly see, like I said from the beginning, once you cause your people to decamp, it will be very difficult. And so that is somebody who is already telling those who do not want CDN to organize such retreat, because such retreat to that viewer is a hope.
Yeah, but you are saying exactly what she said.
Yes. What she was talking about independence. Yes, there you get it. Now she talked about how independence will be an impossibility. No, I'm coming.
Listening to the televiewer's message, she was always a he or a she. Yeah. The person said that the commanditors gave them some kind of dream, and which was independence. That was what they were preaching. We are going to be independent. We are going to control our resources. Good. But now, at the end of this thing, if we do not achieve what you showed us, we are going to haunt you. That's what the
I think the summary of that message rather is, Mr. Leo, now you guys have gone there to discuss about peace, and we want peace, and no matter what you do, ensure that whatsoever you are there for be a positive one. No. Because that is
you have the only lost thing. It. No. The televiewer is not talking about the retreat.
No.
The televiewer is not talking about the retreat.
It's okay, but I think he is targeting already those leaders who have gone for the retreat. No. Those who are organizing the retreat. Now, the truth is that the aspect of the indivisibility of Cameroon cannot be decided by the people you see on the ground. There are certain things that will cause two people to stay together. The moment you go against a union which you have actually founded from a particular point in time, if you are not careful, the other person may slip off your hand. Sometimes it may not be your making. How be it, the way you treat the person may slip off your hand. But I think we are looking ways to see how we can bring back those who are dying, those whose houses have been razed, those who have lost loved ones. We are finding ways to bring them back and to why not give them the kind of comfort that they deserve. As such, if you listen to even the CDN, Mr. Liu, if I'm just to add this. Now, in the CDN, those who attended it, now, even on the aspect of the lockdown, there was deadlock. That is why you listen to Dr. Forotia, he was saying that, okay, now, I think we should reduce the amount of days of the lockdown. And you can see that even from that CDN, even from that retreat, the people are still bent on their normal Monday lockdowns or ghost towns. So I think it is time for we to look at each other eyeball to eyeball. Okay. And I mean, try to see how we can mitigate certain things. The people are in suffering. Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Those leaders who think that only their opinion counts are worse than the present regime. The CDN is out for peace, and peace is what Ground Zero needs. Many more persons are writing about the leadership. Is this something to take very seriously? Fabrice Lena. Hello, Fabrice. Hello, Fabrice. Seemingly is... Hello, can you get me, Fabrice Lena? There are issues with the sound. Do you get the worries of the people they're writing?
My network seems terrible.
Okay. Fabrice, can you get me now?
So his network is not
okay, yeah.
People are worried about the leadership. They have a right. We always have, you know, disunity and sometimes the questionability of leadership. The reason is simply because, especially the message that viewer sent, is because the viewer feels like the peace has been long overdue.
Yeah, maybe the second message is also ties with the first.
Yes, the peace has been long overdue. And I think that, let's be very honest among us here, that in this conflict, the common man is feeling the heat and feeling the pinch. So what we should be aiming now for is that CDN should ensure that they take the feedback that people are giving seriously and see how they can, you know, improve. There's always room for improvement. Improvement because you cannot be all-time perfect. Now today they organized the first one. Fabrice said it was partially almost inclusive, that this one is not inclusive. Maybe subsequently they will look for a way to say, okay, maybe we may not have logistics for everybody. Those whom we don't have logistics, they can join via Skype, Zoom, and we still take their participation serious and, you know, come up with one document. But at the end of the day, Mr. Kum, to clear this so much confusion, fighting against or for the CDN retreat, we need a joint statement, a clear roadmap, what came out, what was discussed, what is the way forward, so that we should not be talking on, you know, speculation at the end one or two ways. Then secondly, they should call for a joint press conference where the press can do a follow-up on, you know, what has happened. Okay. Follow up. So I think it will greatly help to regarnish the image of this.
So you talked about leadership. I want to put in the words of Barrister Bobala. Our struggle should not be meant to should not be replacing an ideological dictatorship with another. He feels that the way things are going on, the complaints that we're complaining about the government, the leadership of the government, is the same thing, because you cannot be complaining about dictatorship and the way you're handling a struggle is also in a dictatorship manner. So, yes.
I appreciate the efforts of the CDN, but they should not forget that power sharing is at the center. A situation where power will alternate between the Anglophones and the Francophones, not Francophones dominating Anglophones. Obi is writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you. Obi, this one says, this war has totally been a business idea. It's true. The UN cannot come into the war crisis because a percentage has not been presented to the set person to carry it to the council. But God said nothing surprises him. He has a reason why everything happened. Lastly, Cameroonian slogans say, we are peace nation, but the absence of war is not peace. God help us. Okay. Hello, Mr. Leo. The people going out there should settle the main issue. School and hospitals are not the cause of the war. They are just suffering from war effects. For example, yes, any message that is insultive, I may not read it. We have come to the end of today's edition of the program. Fabrice, are you still there?
It's not.
Okay. Fabrice is gone. We are going to, on Wednesday, we are still going to be discussing about this. We hope that by Wednesday we would have had the resolutions of the retreat and possibly talk to some of the key actors. If possible, they could take part on Wednesday's edition of the program. We are grateful to you, Akwen, for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Com. It was a pleasure me being here. I want to send a last message to all they that organized the CDN retreat in Toronto. It was a good one. The initiative is good because we all need peace. We have suffered for over 5 years today. But all I can say is next time when you want to organize such an important retreat, you need to inform the public. You need to include everybody. I do not buy to the idea when they say major stakeholders. Everybody is important. Even the common man in the village can take part and bring out his own contribution, because all we need is peace and everyone is welcome. That's the only message I can send to all they that organize this retreat in Toronto.
Okay. Thank you to you for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Leo. I will not stop without appreciating the organizers and the CDN in particular. We want a return to normalcy and peace, and we want it to be a just one. We want to see justice, and we want to see equity. And you know, when we talk about the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiations, it is obvious that there will be dialogue and there will be negotiations on certain things. So I want to call on the people to stay patient, and no matter what, they are going to have it the way they want it to be. I equally want to appreciate those who have been taking care of the IDPs at the center we are managing. I want to thank very much the staffs. I think they have been really doing quite a good job, which is very difficult, and all of this is a fall of the war. And for those who want this war to continue, you should know that some of us have a lot of persons we are carrying on our shoulders. We have a very terrible society. The fabrics have been destroyed, and we want to rebuild it. So please, stop thinking of making money out of this war.
Okay, thank you too.
I think it was timely to have the retreat in Canada, in Toronto. I also think that the church and the civil society has a role to play. If I were to be asked, I would say that when it comes to the dialogue, the church and the civil society, we should be very much involved. And also, I want to thank those who are doing a lot of efforts when it comes to seeking peace and encouraging others for peace. Particularly, I'm saying kudos to Peace House for the move that they are currently carrying out. It's a great thing to raise awareness, because we need to be tolerant with one another, and we need to seek ways for peace. So kudos, Peace House. Thank you.
Okay. We also want to say thank you to you, Jarvis, for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Kum. I believe all of us, majority of us are going to church. As the Catholic, we say, my peace I leave you, my peace I give you. That look not on our sin, but the faith of your church. So in this conflict, we should look not on the sins of the people, but we should look on their faith for peace. And so that by the help of God's mercy, we shall always live in peace and harmony.
Fabrice Lena, are you here with us? Fabrice, we are glad to have had you with us. Okay, Fabrice is no longer there. We want to thank you all who took time off to watch this edition of Prime Hour. Tomorrow we are going to be talking about relationship and marriage. We are going to be looking at why many men and women end up single. Did they put the standards so high, looking for Mr. Right? Is there any Mr. Right? Tomorrow we are going to be discussing that on Prime Hour. But Wednesday we are going to be revisiting this retreat by the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation, hoping that the resolutions would have been made public, and possibly we get some of the actors to be part of Wednesday's edition of the program. Thank you all for watching. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.